Hello friends, welcome to the channel. Today I want to tell you a small story about a boy who changed music forever. Picture a small hand on a piano key. The boy is 3 years old. He presses the key slowly and listens. The sound starts and then it stops. He presses it again. He wants to understand where the sound goes. He doesn't know yet that he will become one of the greatest composers in history. He just wants to understand the sound. That boy is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. You probably think you already know his story. A child genius, a natural gift, someone who found music easy. But that version is not really true. What actually happened was harder, more painful, and much more interesting. Wolfgang was born in Salzburg in 1756. By the age of 4, he could remember full pieces of music after hearing them once. By 5, he was writing his own. By 6, he and his older sister Nannerl were performing for royal families across Europe, in Vienna, Paris, London, and Rome. Here is something most people don't know. Nannerl was also extraordinarily talented. She performed alongside Wolfgang at every concert. But because she was a girl, no one invested in her career. She was slowly pushed to the side as her brother got older. History forgot her almost completely. People watched both of them with amazement, and then forgot them and moved on. Wolfgang never had a normal childhood. He had performances. He had a father who loved him, but also managed his career completely. Leopold Mozart was a good musician himself. He even wrote one of the most famous music teaching books of the 18th century. But he gave up his own career to manage Wolfgang's. That created a relationship that was loving and controlling at the same time. The family spent years traveling across Europe in cold carriages. When Wolfgang was 11, he got smallpox, a serious illness that killed many children. He nearly died. His face was left with visible scars for the rest of his life. He got better, sat down, and kept writing music. Not in a dramatic way. He just kept going. The royal courts enjoyed watching him perform, but they almost never gave him a real job or a good salary. The pattern was always the same: applause, and then a closed door. By his early 20s, the amazing child was now a young man, and courts that had loved watching a 6-year-old were not very interested in paying a grown man properly. He asked for positions at courts across Europe. Most said no. He wrote careful letters to important people asking for work. Most did not reply. His employer in Salzburg, the Archbishop Colloredo, treated him with open disrespect. To the Archbishop, Mozart was simply a servant. Servants were not supposed to have opinions about their own careers. In 1781, things broke. In a famous confrontation, Mozart was physically removed from the Archbishop's service, thrown out by the Archbishop's assistant. He was 25 years old. He had been writing music for nearly 20 years, and someone threw him out of a room. That assistant's name was Count Arco. We only remember that name today because Mozart wrote an angry letter about him afterwards. What would you do? After the 3rd rejection? After the 10th? After writing music that made people cry? And then being told you were not needed? Mozart made a quiet but important decision. He did not give up. He moved to Vienna. He married Constanze Weber. His father strongly disapproved, and it damaged their relationship permanently. What most people don't know is that Mozart had first been in love with Constanze's older sister, Aloysia. She rejected him. He eventually married Constanze, and by all accounts, they were genuinely happy together, even through very difficult years. To earn money, he gave piano lessons to wealthy students, a boring, repetitive work. He also performed in public concerts he organized himself, which was unusual for the time. Most composers worked for one employer. Mozart tried to work independently. It was a brave idea, but it was also financially risky, and he kept composing. In 1786, he finished The Marriage of Figaro. The Austrian emperor had already banned the play it was based on. He thought it was too political, too critical of the upper class. Mozart and his writer, Lorenzo da Ponte, persuaded the court to allow it anyway. The central idea stayed that ordinary people matter, that social class is often meaningless, that love is more honest than power. On the opening night, the audience demanded so many repeated scenes that the emperor afterwards banned encores at the opera entirely. One opera changed the rules. After Figaro came Don Giovanni, a dark story about a man who refuses all rules and is eventually taken to hell. Then Così fan tutte, a sharp and uncomfortable comedy about love and loyalty. Then The Magic Flute, written not for the royal court, but for a popular theater in Vienna, a theater where ordinary working people could afford tickets. That was intentional. Mozart wanted everyone to hear it, not just the wealthy. 4 operas that completely changed what opera could say about human beings. All written in roughly 5 years, while he was borrowing money to pay his rent. Here is what is easy to miss. During those difficult Vienna years, Mozart also wrote 27 piano concertos, a form he essentially invented in its modern shape. He wrote his last 3 symphonies, numbers 39, 40, and 41, in just 6 weeks during the summer of 1788. 6 weeks, 3 symphonies, each one completely different from the others. No one knows exactly why he wrote them. There is no record of a performance being planned. He may have written them simply because he needed to. From the outside, those Vienna years look like failure. But they were also when Mozart produced some of the most original music ever written. He was not repeating old ideas. He was going deeper, into darker, stranger, more honest territory. Can you imagine doing your most serious work during the worst years of your life? By 1791, Mozart was 35 and seriously ill. Doctors today still debate what was wrong, possibly rheumatic fever, kidney disease, or several problems together made worse by years of stress, overwork, and financial worry. He was writing a requiem, music for the dead, commissioned by a mysterious stranger. The stranger turned out to be an agent working for a count who planned to present the music as his own composition. Mozart never found this out. There is a famous story that Mozart believed he was writing this requiem for his own death. Whether that is literally true, we cannot know, but we know he kept working on it. Through illness, through exhaustion, through fear. He did not finish it. He died on December 5th, 1791. He was 35 years old. He was buried in a shared grave outside Vienna. Not the dramatic pauper's funeral some stories describe, but a standard burial for his time and social position, no monument, no marker. Over time, the exact location was forgotten. There is no grave to visit today. There is no stone with his name on it. He did not die as the celebrated genius we think of now. He died in debt. At the time of his death, only a small number of people truly understood how important his work was. His student, Franz Xaver Süssmayr, completed the Requiem from Mozart's notes. It was performed shortly after his death. The magic flute was still running in Vienna the same week he died. He had gone to watch it just weeks before, too ill to stay for the whole performance. The music did not stop. He left behind more than 600 pieces. Many of them you have already heard without knowing it. Music so familiar that it feels like it has always been part of the world. The number K.626 on the Requiem stands for Köchel, the man who, 60 years after Mozart's death, sat down and catalogued every piece he had ever written. 626 of them. It took years. He was thrown out of a room by a man whose name we only remember today because Mozart wrote about it in a letter. He was rejected by courts that later spent enormous amounts of money trying to connect themselves to his memory. And through all of it, he kept writing. Through every rejection, through the debt and the worry, through the illness, even when no one could fully see what he could hear, even when every door stayed closed, even when time was running out,